Hello, everyone. My name is Rog,
And my name is Oliver.
and welcome to our episode on the 8th Avenue Lines ACB trains. I hope you all enjoy this episode, and Oliver will take it away with the service pattern.
So to start off each episode about the different subway lines, I'll be talking about the service patterns, which is basically where the train starts and ends, where it runs local and express, and if it doesn't run during any time of the week. So to start off, we'll talk about the service pattern of the A train. So the A train runs between Inwood 207th Street in Manhattan to Lefferts Boulevard in Queens, Far Rockaway, also in Queens, or Rockaway Park, also in Queens, but during rush hours only. Note that the A train has 3 southern terminals during rush hour. If you want to get to JFK Airport, you have to be on a train to either Far Rockaway or Rockaway Park. So the A train runs as the 8th Avenue Express, running local during late nights. It has an express run from 125th Street to 59th Street, which is the longest express run in the entire system. It then crosses under the East River to Brooklyn, and it runs express along the Fulton Street line. However, it does run local during late nights. First, there's also a branch to Lefferts Boulevard that splits around here. The branch to the Rockaways also splits off, and it stops at Howard Beach, JFK Airport Station, and then goes to Broad Channel. The line between Howard Beach and Broad Channel is 3.5 miles long, the longest distance between any 2 subway stops. At Broad Channel, transfer is available to the Rockaway Park Shuttle to Rockaway Park, while most A trains continue to Far Rockaway, where transfer is available to the Long Island Railroad. Next is the C train. The C train is essentially the local counterpart to the A train, which runs express along most of 8th Avenue and Fulton Street in Brooklyn. It starts at 168th Street in Manhattan and goes to Euclid Avenue in Brooklyn. It's the 8th Avenue line and Fulton Street line local, and the entire route overlaps with the A train. However, it does not run during late nights between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Next is the E train. The E train runs between Jamaica Center, Parsons Archer in Queens, and World Trade Center in Manhattan. Starting in Queens, it runs as the Queens Boulevard Express, and once it gets to Manhattan, it runs as the 8th Avenue Local. It starts in Jamaica, Queens, where transfer is available to the Long Island Railroad, at Sutphin Boulevard, Archer Avenue, JFK Airport Station. It then runs express along Queens Boulevard. This portion of the line has very fast and frequent service thanks to CBTC, or Communications-Based Train Control, which allows trains to run closer together. It then crosses into Manhattan at 53rd Street, then joins the 8th Avenue line to run local until World Trade Center. Just to go over local and express, local trains stop at all stations along a line, while express trains only stop at certain stations. Local stations are usually spaced around 5 to 10 blocks apart, depending on the line, while express stations can be upwards of 30 blocks apart. At stations where both local and express trains stop, you can easily transfer between the 2 services by going across the platform.
All right, so now for the fun part, the tourism along the A and C train. I'm going to be starting from north and basically going south. Once again, this is going to be the A and C line. So the first station I like to talk about is the Inwood 207th Street station. Next to the station, there's something called Inwood Hill Park. And the reason why this location is really cool is because it's a living piece of old New York. It contains prehistoric roots and has caves from caves with Native American drawings on it, I believe. It appears uninhabited with its green forests and lush natural salt marshes. And it has a hiking trail and also has modern conveniences like athletic fields, playgrounds, dog runs, and even a barbecue area. It's basically a fun place to hang out. The next station I like to talk about is Dyckman Station. Next to Dyckman Street Station, there's something called the Dyckman Farmhouse Museum. And this is sort of like a community center that seems like a great place for gathering. There's often talks by different speakers. They have a garden. They'll have various chess competitions. And this museum is named after the the Dijkman family, who had arrived in New Amsterdam in the 1600s. If you'd like to learn more, I suggest you to check out their website, which has a lot more about the history. The next street I'd like to talk about is 190th Street. Near here, there's the Fort Tryon Park. John D. Rockefeller Jr. Began acquiring private parcels around 1917, and as part of his vision, developing a beautiful park with majestic views of the Hudson River. And this park falls under that category. Park goers can run, walk, or the 8 miles of pathway, play in the lawns, or enjoy the city's largest garden with unrestricted public access. Fort Tryon Park is also home to Manhattan's largest dog run, and complete with a gazebo for dog owners to sit and socialize, as well as 2 playgrounds, volleyball courts, and a bunch of built-in ping pong tables. The next station I'd like to talk about is 181st Street. Near here, there's the George Washington Bridge, which stands high above the Hudson River. Its eastern end rests on the shores of Manhattan, and engineers and planners for over 100 years before were planned this design. It was designed by the Othmar Arman, a brilliant Swiss-born architect who proposed the design, and it was eventually chosen.
And also, this 181st Street and some of the other stations on the 1 line, which you will hear about in the 7th Avenue episode, these stations are very, very deep below street level and are only accessible via elevators. So in the 1950s, it was actually proposed to turn some of these stations into nuclear fallout shelters.
That's cool. Next station is 175th Street. Here you can find a little red lighthouse. It's kind of out of place in the bustle of New York a little bit, but it's very cool. It's a 40-foot high structure, and in 1948, it was eventually decommissioned by the Coast Guard, and it's just a cool place to check out.
And also after 175th Street is 168th Street, which is where the C train starts service.
So the next station I'm going to talk about is 155 Street Station. Sorry. Here you can find the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling, developed by Broadway Housing Communities and led by founder and executive director Ellen Baxter for over 30 years. It's a stimulating place for neighborhood families to gather and share in cultural programs, but also actively address the educational needs present in the community for the youngest children. Where many families are challenged by poverty and little formal education and lack proficiency in the English language. If you'd like to check it out, I think it'd be a cool experience. The next station is 145th Street. Near here is the Hamilton Grange National Memorial. Hamilton Grange was a merchant clerk, Revolutionary War soldier, and first Secretary of Treasury of the United States. The life is memorialized. Alexander Hamilton's life, is memorialized at the Grange, and the home he built on a country estate in uptown Manhattan. It's a faithful testament of early American architecture, and it stands today as a tribute to its first owner's many accomplishments. The next station will be 125th Street Station, where you can find the Apollo Theater, which is a nonprofit theater. It has served as a center for innovation and creative catalysts all along Harlem. If you've gone to Harlem, you have to have known about the Apollo Theater. The goal of the Apollo Theater is to envision a new American canon centered on contributions to the performing arts by artists in the African diaspora and America and beyond. The next station is 110th Street Station. Here is another great park called Morningside Park. Morningside Park's grounds make an ideal starting point for wanderings, bike rides, and various other walking tours. It was built on a steep incline, has multiple playgrounds nestled at the bottom of its cliffs-like hillside, and visitors can pause all along its heights and take in a unique view. Now, the next, I'm going to talk about four stations. The next four stations, 103rd Street, 96th Street, 86th Street, and 72nd Street stations. These are all stations that run along the west side of Central Park, I believe. It was created in the beginning. Central Park was created in the beginning of 1858 to address the recreational needs of a growing city. It was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux. Central Park influenced the development of urban parks nationwide. It is widely regarded as the masterpiece of landscape architecture. It's located in the center of Manhattan. You cannot miss it. It has baseball, soccer fields, a carousel, 2 skating rinks, a zoo, formal garden, commemorative monuments, and a concert and theater venues.
And also at 81st Street, you can go to the Natural History Museum if you want to go where they filmed Night at the Museum, or you like dinosaurs.
Great movie. Great movie. So the next station I'm going to talk about is 59's Columbus Circle. Obviously, you have Columbus Circle, where the station gets out, which is, I don't know, like a cool little roundabout. But my favorite attraction near here is something called Spyscape, which is like a sort of a spy-themed park, kind of, and has related merchandise to different spy-related stuff. So MI6, and you'll truly be able to experience, apparently, what it's like to be a spy. I think it's a nice experience for the family, if you have a family. So the next station is 42nd Street, Port Authority. Here you can find Madame Tussauds, which is the greatest wax museum in the world. You'll be able to see various lifelike wax figures of famous celebrities. I think they have one of like Jimmy Fallon, if I remember correctly, and also other celebrities too. They look really real. Like it's hard to tell the difference, honestly, sometimes.
And also at Port Authority, you can change to the bus terminal for various buses to both New Jersey and the other parts of the tri-state area, and also intercity buses if you're trying to go to D.C., Pennsylvania, or even Boston.
So the next station on my list is 34th Street, Penn Station. And here is the famous Madison Square Garden. It is one of the most famous arenas in the world where you can see both major sporting events. The NBA, I think, often occurs here. And also many famous concerts. I actually went to an Eagles concert here, which was an amazing experience. But so I would recommend it if you are able to find the time to try to get to Madison Square Garden.
And also at Penn Station, you can transfer to Amtrak service for intercity rail service to areas across the East Coast. There's New Jersey Transit service that can take you to points on the Jersey coast, Central Jersey, if you believe that's real, North Jersey, and North Jersey too. And then finally, you can take the Long Island Railroad to, you guessed it, Long Island, and also the Hamptons and Montauk.
Yep. The next station is West 4th Street, Washington Square. Here you can find the Comedy Cellar, or the Comedy Circle. Comics around the world have gotten their start here, and it's a great spot for some stand-up comedy if you need a little bit of a pick-me-up. But be warned, the comics will not spare your feelings, so take that into account before you enter the comedy club.
And also at West 4th Street, Washington Square, you can go to Washington Square Park, which has its famous arch at the end of Fifth Avenue, and there's also the center of New York University.
So the next one is Canal Street Station. Here there's the Ghostbusters headquarters. I've never been here, but apparently it says that the hook and ladder, the quirky old Tribeca firehouse was used as the Ghostbusters headquarters in the 1984 film, and its many cartoon and video game spin-offs. The firefighter's badge features out an X'd out logo. In 2012, it was on the city's chopping block to be closed, actually, to save money. So if you want to keep it around, maybe you should give it a little visit, maybe a little dono if you can. But yeah. So the next station is the World Trade Center. If you don't already know about the World Trade Center, call me. I'm very surprised, but the World Trade Center is New York's one of its main attractions, I believe. You obviously have the Oculus, which is, I think, the coolest train station in New York. But you also have many, many different stores. It's basically a mall almost.
Yeah.
And it's a, if you've ever been to a mall, you'll have a lot of fun here at the World Trade Center.
And World Trade Center is the southern terminal of the E train. So if you're taking an E train, it's going to end here, while the A and C trains are going to continue into Brooklyn.
Yep.
So all stations after this or the next few stations after this are going to be in Brooklyn.
Yeah. So the next station is High Street Station, where you can see a Brooklyn War Memorial. You have Whitman Park, which, like many of the other parks, are dog friendly. They have very many attractions. I believe that it has some basketball courts and different picnic tables. And then you have Cadman Plaza, another park, Cadman Plaza Park. The station after that is J Street's Metro Tech, where you can find the Brooklyn Commons and the Tandon School, or NYU, which is the engineering school. And then after that, you have Hoyt. I always get this name on Hoyt Schemerhorn. It filmed. This is where the music video, the Michael Jackson song "Bad," the music video was filmed here. And it also has the New York Transit Museum, which is extremely cool. I'd recommend you check it out.
Yeah, the New York Transit Museum is located in a decommissioned subway station, which is on a line that branches off at Hoyt-Schermerhorn Street Station.
And after Hoyt, we have Euclid Avenue Station, which is where you find the end of the C train. After that, you have Rockaway Boulevard Station, which is where the train splits into two different branches.
The A train.
The A train, splits into two different branches towards Lefferts Boulevard and towards Rockaway. After that, you have the Aqueduct Racetrack Station, which has a horse racing track and a casino. It's a great place to visit if you're over 21. However, you can't board a Manhattan bound train here. After that, you have Howard Beach Station, which you can transfer to the air train towards JFK Airport. Then you have Broad Channel Station, which is a transfer to the Rockaway Park shuttle. The A train goes into the Rockaways during rush hour only, though. Some trains go to Rockaway Park, while the rest of the day trains go to Far Rockaway. The Rockaways are a very nice summer destination. There's lots of beaches for relaxing, surfing, nice restaurants. You can also walk or bike along the Rockaway boardwalk. And then 67th Street is best for surfing. 90th to 98th Street usually has more actions, and it gets really crowded on summer weekends. And 105th to 116th Street is good for families, and usually is quieter and not as crowded.
And a quick side note for the Aqueduct Racetrack Station. Yeah, there's only one platform there, so you can only take trains going to Manhattan, and there's no trains to the Rockaways. So it's kind of unique in that there's only trains in one direction from this station.
Okay, so now I'm going to kind of go back up north a little bit to the E line, which is going to head to Queens.
So the E line splits off from the A and C trains after 50th Street Station in Midtown Manhattan, and it curves eastwards along 53rd Street and out towards Queens.
Yeah. So the first station on this list is 7th Avenue Station. Here you can find the Broadway Theater. It opened in 1924 as B.S. Moss's Colony, a premier film house. The most notable film that played here in the early years was Walt Disney's Steamboat Willie, which opened in 1928 and introduced American audience to an adorable rodent named Mickey Mouse. The theater went legit from 1930 to 1934, where it was re-christened the Broadway. From 1934 to 1940, the house was once again dedicated to motion picture exhibition and offered the premiere of Disney's Fantasia in 1939. In 1940, however, it returned to a legitimate stage production, and except for a brief stint as a Cinerama movie theater in the 1950s, has remained in the business of showcasing live theater ever since. It is one of the most, if not the most popular theater in New York City.
So after a couple stops along 53rd Street, the E train goes into Queens. So the next stops will all be in Queens.
Yep. So the next stop on my list is Court Square, 23rd Street. Here you can find Murray Park, and it's a popular park in the growing Long Island City neighborhood. Murray Playground, is home to soccer leagues, happy pubs, outdoor theater troupes, and many fun times. The park features a large synthetic turf field used for soccer and bat sports, and an active dog run, a lawn with a performance area at its east entrance. In the center of the park, you can find a bright area for children to play with swings, a clubhouse, and a leaf-shaped spray shower for the hot summer months. Now, I think the coolest station on this list in Queens, at least, is the Jamaica Center Parsons Archer Street Station. This is near the NYPD Forensic Laboratory, King's Manor Museum, Rufus King Park, and the Grace Cemetery. So I'll first talk about like the Rufus King Park and the King Manor Museum. So Rufus King, who was born in 1755 and died in 1827, was a framer and signer for the United States Constitution, a U.S. Senator, and a passionate anti-slavery advocate throughout his life. He and his family lived at King Manor. King Manor Museum is basically his house as a museum. And he lived at the manor for over 3 generations with a dedication to improving their 168 acres of land and developing it as a successful working farm. He and his family had lived the park surrounding the manor is also dedicated to him, Rufus King Park. All right, thank you for listening. I hope this episode was informative. Our next episode will dive into attractions across the 6th Avenue lines. This is the B, D, F, and M trains. See you next time.